Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel. Well, today I'm going to be playing a game I got off Steam called Rosanna, you know what, screw it, I think I'll just call it Mega Man Double D's. And the Double D part should be somewhat self-explanatory. And when I say Mega Man, I don't mean they kinda took a little bit of his gameplay elements, like boss weaknesses, and put them in the game. No, if you take out the different artwork and put in the proper Mega Man enemies, you would have a Mega Man game. I should also point out that the graphics also borrow heavily on Castlevania classics like Rondo of Blood, and the story does take points from the Mega Man X series. Still, despite the amount of clear ripping off the game it does have a few original ideas in the blend to make me enjoy the game a bit more, and it celebrates a lot of being old school with being difficult. But like I said in my Cuphead review, a good old school game isn't out to pound you constantly, and Mega Man D manages to succeed in that. It's challenging, but with the exception of a few places, I didn't feel like it was hopeless, and even there, with enough patience, I managed to triumph. The story is set in the world where magic users called Magi exist and are discriminated against by the government. That is, until a wise mage makes peace by sacrificing himself to the government and church, allowing Magi to serve in the army as special soldiers. Skip a few generations later, and a young mage named Spiritia is coming home for some training in the forest, only to get home to find her best student, Iris, being kidnapped. And another friend is behind it all, announcing that the entire army of mages is rebelling against the government and normal people because they feel that the Reploids, Magi won't be free from persecution until they get rid of all non-magic humans. Spiritia rejects this proposal and is out now to challenge 8 of her close friends to combat, and then storm the castle of Count Zeppelin, the mastermind behind this rebellion. Like I said, the story is complete Mega Man X ripoff, with basically Magi replacing Reploids in the storyline. Like X, Spiritia is passive. Unlike X, though, she never kills the women she beats, but somehow still manages to tap into their power for extra weapons. The game also has an arcade mode that skips out the story dialogue. Why is this in here? Because, good God, some of the story cutscenes can be long. Not as bad as Freedom Planet, but long enough. Check out this scene here. Can't they just say, what is a man but a miserable pile of secrets, and get on with this fight? Ugh. Yeah, the story rips off X, but what does the gameplay of Mega Man Double D rip off? The answer, the original Mega Man, down to almost a freaking T. You can charge up and shoot your shots, you have a slide, you can use powers in a rock, paper, scissors fashion, but I'm not talking about just feeling like Mega Man. Things like disappearing and reappearing walls also happen here. Monsters that act like the monsters you see in a Mega Man game. Heck, the first level of the last set of stages feels a lot like Dr. Wily Castle Level 1 from Mega Man 2, in the way you use items and the way the stage is laid out. So there is a lot more than it just feeling like a Mega Man game. The bosses in this game even fight similar to Robot Masters fights, so the Mega Man influence is so much that you can easily reskin the characters back to their Mega Man counterparts and have a legitimate Mega Man game. I would say Capcom should sue, but considering what they have done to the franchise and how good this ripoff is, I say Capcom has no complaints. Speaking about good, let's talk about that. Yes, it feels like a Mega Man game, and yes, it goes for the harder ones, but it does so in an enjoyable way. The controls are excellent, and so are the setups. While you may go, hey, I remember an area like this in Mega Man, and with the exception of a few, there are new surprises. I loved what they did with the Quick Man area for Mega Man 2, having you both have to go fast, but sometimes think a little bit too. And yes, the game is really frustrating in an old school way, but I managed to enjoy it and complete it, something I have yet to do with the game Cuphead. Not to say the gameplay is perfect, however. It has 2 flaws other than ripping off Mega Man. First flaw is kind of obvious. Mega Man names his bosses off their elements, so it's really simple to guess that weakness. This game, yeah, good luck judging from the names of the girls and the powers they have. The only obvious one is the swimsuit girl, that she is indeed the aqua power, but the rest is not exactly easy to guess. Granted, I just had to take a look at the Steam guides to give me a clue to their weaknesses, so it's a minor complaint, but still, it's the one area where it does really fall below the Mega Man standards. The second one, however, is not a minor complaint. Its inclusion in this game was downright idiotic, and I'm talking about something that no retro remake has done. Sonic Mania didn't do it, Cuphead didn't do it, even Double Dragon 4 didn't have this in their game. It's something that died in the 90s and should quite frankly stay buried in the 90s, and that is the game uses a password system. Yeah, points off for ripping off of Mega Man again with the way it looks, but here's the thing, it's not needed anymore, and it's just a pain in the ass to save and quit the game. Or in this case, I should say restart it, as getting the password down in a place where you won't lose it is easy with modern technologies. Most Windows OS systems nowadays have one or two screen capturing softwares already on it. And if you like me, who actually records stuff for YouTube, then getting the password is even easier. It's just a pain to input this, and there's no need for it. Old school games didn't have passwords because they were old school and it was the thing to do back in the 80s. Old school games had passwords because it was a compromise and a necessity. Back in the NES era, most games were short enough that they could be beaten in an hour or less. For bigger games like Dragon Warrior or Final Fantasy, they did have a battery-packed save system. For games though like Mega Man that went on over that 1 hour by quite a bit, but weren't too long that you couldn't complete in one setting, they had passwords to save the expense of the battery save. But as tech got better and we started having consoles with huge memory cards and hard drives, these became unnecessary. Even later Mega Man games had save points, for crying out loud. I don't care how old school you are, nobody wants or enjoys these things anymore. Back again, in my day we love passwords. So fun to always write down, and if you made an accident and forgot a part of it, then you had to replay several stages until you got a new one. And it added minutes onto the game, and it was just a joy. You kids and your automatic save points don't know what you're missing. Correction, nobody sane enjoys these things. Anyways, with the exception of the no save feature with a password tacked on instead, this game is actually really fun for the price tag, and it is worth checking out. Just expect to hit the Windows print screen button a lot so you can screen cap your passwords. Yeah, it's an all-female cast, and it's anime looking. You're probably going now, how much creepy fan services are going to be? Actually, not that much, other than this little girl in a bikini for some reason, and this girl right here who probably has back problems with breasts that big. The game is actually relatively free of fan service. Kinda surprising considering that this was originally going to be a hentai game. Fortunately, the developers decided they had a damn fine ripoff of Mega Man and decided to release it to the world with the girls' clothes staying on. Anyways, the graphic sprites are pretty good looking. A lot of the backgrounds look like they came out of Castlevania, and there are even some Castlevania inspired bosses towards the end too, but you also have areas that are completely unique in their design. While the backgrounds are well done, they don't quite fit the sprites in my opinion as far as the looks. While the graphics aren't always perfect, they are pretty good and nice to look at. I enjoyed the way this game looked. The music in this game takes cues from and managed to blend both Castlevania and Mega Man games soundtrack together and comes up with its unique blend, and it sounds awesome. While there's nothing as awesome as, say, Bloody Tears in the music soundtrack, it is worth listening to and checking out. I enjoyed the music. There is also some Japanese language in the audio. There are subtracks whenever someone starts speaking in Japanese, so nothing to fear there for the English audience. Overall, the soundtrack is quite good. Rosenkreuzstilette, or Mega Man Double D's as I like to call it, because I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that name right, is a charming game and worthy of looking into. Is it as good as the real thing? Not quite, but it is a great substitute. With Capcom not doing anything with the Mega Man series in the past 7 years and not looking like they're going to do anything with them in the near future, it's up to us fans to find an alternative, and this sure is a respectable one. It regularly goes for $10 on Steam, which I think is a decent price for a game like this. I just wish it had the freaking save to it instead of going with passwords. I thought that was an idiotic decision by the developers, but other than that, it's a really great game. Well, folks, that's it for this video. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below. I would also love it if you subscribe to my channel. Just click on the subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a member of my community. I'll see you guys later.